Okay, again, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this first webinar in this series. Very happy to welcome you. My name is Roland de Wit, Managing Consultant at Engagement Factory. I will be your host today and talking you through this session together with my colleague, whom I'm about to introduce. This is the very first edition, very first episode in our Marketing Transformation webinar series that we're kicking off today, and as we called it, Transformation Tuesday. For the coming weeks, we will be offering you various interesting topics to grow in your modern marketing maturity. We'll be kicking off today to look what modern marketing actually is and how we can help you grow in that maturity. And then in the weeks hereafter, we'll be focusing on specific topics like personas and buying journeys, marketing and sales alignment, campaign optimization, and event marketing. And undoubtedly, there will be some topics added to this as well. So if you think you have an interesting topic that should be part of this series, don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we will happy to be included in it. So how can you get the most out of the webinar today? At least stay tuned for the coming 45 minutes or so. Take some relevant notes. The presentation deck is already available for you in the control panel on your right-hand side. The handout session has both the presentation deck as well as an ebook on modern marketing in it. And afterwards, we'll be sharing the recording. If you have any questions, you can submit them in the question box, also on the right-hand side. We will be launching some polls during the session, so happy to see your feedback in there as well. And of course, join the other webinars in this series if you like what we've been presenting today. For now, you can just sit back and get inspired with what we've got to offer you. So the agenda for today, we'll do a brief introduction, then look at what's changing in the world around us, looking at what the key challenges are that marketing and sales and organization as a whole are facing today. And then we will dive into details on the actual topic for today, how you can build your transformation roadmap. And then during the conclusion phase, we'll also have time left for some Q&A. So if you have some questions, you can put them in the question box and we'll be answering them at the end of the presentation. So this session is brought to you by Engagement Factory. We've been around for quite some years doing great stuff in the field of marketing automation, modern marketing, and also stretching into the domains of sales and service, covering the full customer experience. Based in several countries across EMEA and working with global brands as well as local players, helping them to be more successful in their modern marketing journey. And when we do that, we see that a lot of clients as well as prospects encounter the same kind of challenges. One biggie of them is that the buying process is really changing. You might recognize this statistic, original from CAB, now Gartner, where they state that about 57% of the buying process is completed before someone even reaches out to a vendor or more vendors. It's not just that, it's also that at that same point, we see that Gartner states that on average, 7 people are involved in an average B2B buying decision. That's 7 people, 7 different stakeholders, 7 different opinions, goals, objectives, but also reason not maybe to move ahead. All of those people massively go online to research vendors using social media as well as other sources. And with that, they're hardly ever reaching out to people to just have a chat with them. And a serious decision then concludes that about 2/3 of the entire process is done digitally. So let me start off with the first poll to see if we've got everyone awake here. If you would see these developments, do you recognize that as well? So do me a favor and answer the question if you recognize the changing buying behavior. If it's a lot, just starting to show a bit, or really, nope, the same old, same old. Just waiting a bit for the results to drop in. I think we have a clear winner, looking that we do see that 2/3 of you say, well, yes, we recognize this a lot, and 1/3 says it's showing a bit, and for no one, the world is still the same as it was maybe a year or a couple of years ago. which really is interesting to see as well. So knowing that the world is changing, we also see a lot of new developments come into play, and there's a huge amount of technology available in this digital era. But even in this era, we see a lack of integration, or maybe even in this era, we see a lack of integration between systems, processes, people, and data. And with that lack of integration, you see that it's more and more difficult to offer an integrated and consistent customer experience. And this statistic really shocked me, where we saw that 96% of customers said that they received mistargeted or messages and promotions. You could even say that maybe the 4% that was well targeted might have been a coincidence instead of a well-developed campaign. But literally, with everyone doing their best to influence buyers, it appears that probably we're not doing that good of a job. On the other hand, we do realize that if we are able to offer that better experience, that we will see much more impact on revenue and on engagement as a whole. So it's clear that we need to step up our game. And that in the end, the end goal should be that we deliver the right message to the right person, to the right time, to the right channel, because that will drive powerful engagement. We all know this. This is not really new. The challenges at hand are changing. So let's have a look how we can approach this. And we believe that with this series that we can offer you some relevant points to start with, working from modern marketing maturity all the way down to how campaigns and events can be optimized. So starting off today with modern marketing, I'm glad to be handing over to my colleague, Mark Emmett, who will talk you through the rest of the presentation.
Great, thank you, Roland. So we're going to take you through how we help our customers move forward and improve their modern marketing maturity. And for most of them, that starts with something, but you also need to be able to adapt really quickly in order to be able to get amazing results. So for many of our customers, we really encourage them to change their thinking. Yes, you need to sell your products and your services, but you should really understand what the customer needs and how your product can help them, looking at things really from the customer's point of view. And then you need your sales, your service, and your marketing teams to work together really closely so that you can approach your prospects and customers as one cross-organizational team. We help our customers to improve their marketing, focusing on 3 key areas. If you want to build your marketing maturity, then we really encourage you to think wider than just improving your systems or your content. We start with content and encourage our customers to really understand your audience in incredible depth to create insight, which you can then use to inform your content and your messaging. And then you need best-in-class marketing technology to support you. And most companies need to invest in their internal teams, and many of them have to go through some organizational change. So at Engagement Factory, we really live and breathe modern marketing. And that means that as well as having insight-led contact strategies, providing the technology to enable our customers, you also need to fill the funnel and work efficiently with your sales team to generate, qualify, nurture, and then convert leads. So it's quite a lot to think about there, and you'd be forgiven for scratching your head and wondering where the right place is to start. So we've created our modern marketing maturity model, and that's been created to help to prioritize the right things to do first and to help create a roadmap for you to be able to improve what you do and to be able to quickly move along the journey to achieving some really powerful results. Now, there's 10 levels in the model, and at each level there are up to 13 areas to consider and to look at before you can really say, yeah, if you're starting at the first level, then yeah, we've got awesome database foundations in place. What do we do next? So today what we're going to do is take you through some of these levels And then at the end, we're going to share with you how you can access the full model and have a closer look at how that can help you. So let's start with some solid foundations and have a look at the first 3 levels. So always start with data. Data is often really undervalued, and companies often overlook the importance of it and then find that they get stuck later on. Data really fuels your marketing capability, and it's really important to start to build a single customer. Now, within this level, there's actually 13 areas to cover, but I've listed here some of the key ones to really start with. So you should audit the data that you've got across your company and look at opportunities to really integrate systems together. You should check and see what your data completeness is, particularly across the really key fields. We'll come back to that in a minute. Set up governance so that you've got control over your data and build a data improvement plan, and prioritize your key target audiences, and then define how you're going to target them using different parameters. So some of you will notice that as I go through these items, sounds familiar to some of the challenges you might be going through as we approach GDPR. And some organizations are really approaching GDPR from an IT perspective, but it's really important for your marketing that you also have a really good view of what data is stored across the company and have a think about how you can leverage it. So let's have a quick poll again now. Let's have a look and see how many of you have already run a full business-wide data audit for GDPR. That's really interesting to see how you're interacting with the poll. The numbers are changing quite a lot. Give you a few moments for everybody to input in there. There's a couple of people haven't responded just yet. Great to see that everybody's at least thinking about it. Great, so 7% of you are all done. So congratulations, well done. And 47% of you have started, but you haven't quite finished yet. So that's great. I guess it's quite interesting to see half of you haven't done it yet, although 20% of you are saying, yes, it's planned. Okay, interesting. And so good to get your feedback. So thanks for interacting with the poll. So database foundations is level 1, and campaign foundations are level 2. So before you can run sophisticated real-time marketing campaigns, you need to be able to work really efficiently. So this campaign foundations level is where you should get templates set up for your day-to-day campaigns so that you can execute them really quickly and easily. And then you need to start to schedule them. So you need a campaign calendar. And then you need a campaign management process so that you can manage expectations with your colleagues and your stakeholders and be able to work really efficiently as a team. Once you've got campaigns up and running, it is also really important to remember to just pause and take time to review what's happening with your campaigns and to see what is working really well and what you need to focus on in order to improve. So level 3 is building your demand generation foundations. There's a saying that most marketing leaders know that 90% of their revenue is coming from 10% of their marketing, but which 10% is it? And a lot of people really don't know. They have a gut feel, but they just can't track it. So in this section, we encourage you to create a list of all the types of activities that you spend money on in order to create demand, and to define your demand generation KPIs, and then to design a process for tracking your activities. So start with tracking your digital activities, look at using query strings and parameters, and there are different tools and techniques that you can use to track the traffic that's coming through there. And then if you've got integrated systems, then you can also see not just where the volume of traffic is coming from, but where the sales are actually being created from. Most companies are still spending a lot of money around events, so it's really important to define and agree a strategy on how you're going to measure the effectiveness of your events and how you're going to be able to track the leads that come from that. And once you've done that and you've got those basic tools and techniques in place, have a look at the live campaigns that you're running and see which of those need to be updated so that you can still manage their effectiveness and see what's working really easily. So now you've got the foundations in place, it's time to take it up to the next level. We're going to skip level 4 for today as we're a bit short on time, but we will cover level 4 in our third webinar, which will be on the 23rd of January. And that'll be the webinar on marketing and sales alignment. So make sure you don't miss that one. So we've just looked at the foundation levels and we've looked at getting your campaign fundamentals set up. Level 5 is campaign management phase 2. And so in this level, we encourage our customers to look at improving their campaign results by starting with testing and doing A/B testing. So what should you test first? You need to build a strategy so that you can structure your testing over time and make sure that you focus on testing one thing at a time and doing the important things first. So build an A/B testing strategy and get your testing started, but also train your field marketing or your country marketing teams and identify your early adopters and make sure you've got a forum where you can share best practice and help the other users to be able to use the platforms and the processes that you've set up. Then it's a good idea to start setting up some always-on campaigns, and we always recommend our customers start with a welcome campaign. Now, as you can see here, there's lots of different always-on campaigns that you can create. Welcome campaigns are a great place to start. Some of our customers are getting open rates of over 85% and click-through rates of over 70% on their welcome campaigns as they start to build engagement with their new contacts. So this is a great way to start a relationship right at the beginning and get ready to reap the rewards later on by having really solid foundations and nurturing those new contacts and prospects. They start to show an interest in what you're doing. And there's lots of other always-on campaigns that are worth building, and we're going to go into this in more detail in our fourth webinar, and that's the webinar on campaign optimization that will be held on the 30th of January. So good to put that one in your diary. Level 6 is where we encourage our customers to look at segmenting their top prospects and customers and prioritizing them to create personas and personas that you really want your company to spend time on. So define those audiences and then develop personas, really getting under the skin to see what they tick, to see what makes them tick. So what really drives and motivates them, what makes them feel successful, what are their frustrations and challenges, what are the questions that they're asking as they go through a buying process, and where are they going to get answers to those questions? Is it always online, or is it a mixture of online and offline, and exactly where are they going? And what is their role in the buying process? So really, really looking in incredible detail at the personas and at the buying journeys. And next week, next Tuesday in our webinar, we're going to go into this area in a lot more detail. So after level 6, we move into level 7. And this is where we take the personas and we take the buying journey that we have uncovered through the research and through the insight in the previous stage. And we start to look at those questions that your prospects are asking as they go through that buying journey. And we then look at auditing your content to see where you've got a relevant message and a relevant voice, and you're able to add value to the buyer as they're asking those questions. At this stage, it typically uncovers areas where you need to create new content, and from there, you can do your content mapping, and you can then develop really powerful messaging that's going to engage with your audience at a persona level. So it's really important not to slip into doing very generic messaging. You take the persona insights and you take the questions and you look at the content that you've got, you can develop highly targeted messaging. And this is where you start to get really amazing response rates and really powerful engagement with your audience. So that is level 7 in the maturity model. And level 8 and 9, we're going to go through in sales and marketing alignment webinar on the 23rd of January. And I wonder, based on what you've seen so far, I wonder where you think you are at the moment. So let's have another poll and let's see, based on your gut feeling, based on what we've shown you so far, where do you think you are on the maturity model for now? So do you think you're still building the foundations? Do you think you're starting to do some more advanced lead and campaign management? Or perhaps you're already focusing on personas and buying journeys. Maybe even you've got past that and looking at doing some revenue performance management. So let's just run this poll for a minute and see where you think you are. Just give you a couple more moments. It's really interesting seeing how the numbers have changed. So, okay, let's close that off now. We'll just share that with you. And it didn't start off at 33% each for the first 3, but that's where we ended up. So it's interesting that we've got an even split across each of these areas. Okay, so let's move on. So what are the next steps that we would encourage you to take? Well, it's great to get your feedback. A lot of the time, customers are really asking us to help them. And so this is the approach that we typically take. So we typically start by running some interviews with different teams within the business to really understand where they're at, what their key challenges are, and what's stopping them from improving their maturity. We also look at the systems that you use, and we'll conduct a system health check. If you've got a marketing automation platform, then we look in detail at how that's set up. And from there, we're able to take the results, map that against the maturity model along the axes of system, people, processes, and data. And then from there, we're able to start to build a roadmap with short-term and long-term recommendations for you. So lots of our customers are asking for support, and that's typically the process that we would take. But in addition to that, in order to help our customers, we've also built a modern marketing coach app. So this is a free app that we've created that you can download today. It's available on the Apple Store, also in the Play Store, and you can download it for free. If you just search for modern marketing, then you'll find it straight away, and you can download the app. And once you've downloaded it, it will then take you through the 10 levels, and at each level, it lists out each of the key areas to focus on. And for each of those, it will give you some hints and tips on how to tackle them and the sort of things that you need to consider. Once you've ticked off all of the tasks in one particular level, you can then move into the next level, and it'll allow you to get some additional tips and advice and to be able to start using our maturity model today. So key takeaways from our quick introduction today is that the road to getting amazing results really is a journey. As I said earlier, there is no silver bullet to doing it. There's lots of different things that you need to tackle, and it takes a bit of time. So take one step at a time, and we just encourage you to take some time at the beginning to just pause and assess where you are to start with. Once you've got your benchmark and you can then see, okay, this is where we're at the moment, then you can see how to improve. We really encourage you to download our app. As I said, it's a free app, and you can start using it, and it can help you and guide you along on your journey. I'd encourage you not to rush through the levels. You get really powerful results from doing things, doing the right things in the right order, and really doing them thoroughly. That's where you get the best results from. So take your time on that. If you'd like some help, we'd love to help you. And we're here at any time. You can reach out to us and contact us through our website at engagementfactories.com. And we know what it takes. We've won a lot of awards for doing this, so we've got a lot of advice that we'd be really happy to share with you. So mentioned a couple of times, and Roland mentioned earlier, that this is the first in a series of webinars. And next Tuesday, we're going to be going through personas and buying journeys in more detail. So that's on the 16th. And then Tuesday after that, marketing and sales alignment. And we'll be looking at lead management and sales enablement as part of that. Then on the 30th of January, we'll be looking at campaign optimization, using some of the more advanced techniques to really take your campaigns to the next level. And then at the beginning of February, we will look at event marketing and how you can run your events in the most efficient way and be able to act on that and track all of the contacts that you're engaging with. So those are the webinars that are coming up in the next 4 weeks, and just really encourage you to register for those. You can access them through our website, or if you go to our LinkedIn page, then you can access them through there. And of course, you've all been and registered for today. So any issues at all, please get into contact with us, but we'd love you to join us in the webinars that are coming up. So those are the key things that we wanted to share today. So we're going to open up now and have a look at some of the questions that you've asked and see if we can give you some answers. So Roland, what have we got so far? There's a couple of questions I think that have come in.
Yeah, so one of the questions, Mark, is how would the maturity model be different for B2B companies compared to B2C type of companies?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think that a lot of companies, when they start talking to us, they tell us that they're really different to a lot of the customers that we would be speaking to, but they're really interested in getting some support from us. And of course, every company is different, but actually a lot of the underlying principles are really, really similar. In a B2B company, talk about generating leads, and we talk about lead and opportunity funnels. And in a B2C company, you don't necessarily use that language. Talk perhaps more about lifecycle management, and perhaps lead management isn't part of your daily language. You might talk about some e-commerce challenges that you have. So there are some differences. Certainly from a maturity perspective, it still comes down to some of the key fundamentals and making sure that you've got good quality data, making sure that you can run really powerful campaigns, and you need to really break that down into doing the fundamentals and into doing more advanced types of campaigns to drive engagement. If you're in a B2C environment where you've got an e-commerce platform, then you would do things like basket abandonment, and you might use some social media platforms a little bit differently to if you're in a B2B context. But a lot of the fundamentals are really very, very similar indeed. And when you engage with somebody within a B2B organization, typically engaging with somebody who's also a consumer. So typically we're all making decisions with a balance of very rational thought and also some emotions too. And it's important to remember that even if you're selling a solution, $1 million solution, into a large organization with a really complex buying unit, then you're still actually selling to people. And you need to engage with those people with content that is relevant to them.
Yeah, I guess that whether it's B2B or B2C, it's still people buying from people. That goes for everything. So based on your experience, could you say which of the levels is really the hardest one?
Well, it depends a little bit on the organization. Some of our customers have got data in a lot of different places, and for them, one of the biggest challenges is actually once they've audited the data, building connections between those data sets, because they've got so many different data sets. In some of the really bigger companies that we have, then there are some challenges around politics, and there are some challenges around decision making, which makes it hard to move quickly. And in some of the smaller organizations, they don't necessarily have the resources that they want to be able to move as quickly as they would really like. So it does depend a little bit.
Is there a sort of average timing which it takes to get from the one level to the other, or maybe to complete the full model maturity levels?
Well, one of our customers wants to move really fast, and they were starting between level 1 and 2, so really at the beginning, and they wanted to move as quickly as possible, and were quite happy to put a lot of investment behind moving up the levels. And what we've seen is that within a year for them, they've been able to move up to around level 6, which is pretty quick compared to what most companies can do. So it does depend a little bit on how nimble you can be and how much resource you've got available. But as I suggested earlier, if you want to get really powerful results, and it is worth spending time to do things properly. And that means that it takes a while for you to actually build your maturity. It's not something that can be done overnight.
Yeah, so in the poll, we saw no one that scored a level 8 or higher. Do you know of any companies that are at that level?
So there are a few companies that claim to be at level 8 or 9. There's even a few companies that would claim to be at level 10. But I think very few people have actually got all the way through and have really smashed it out of the park and have got to level 10. Most of the companies that think they're up in level 8 or 9 haven't really fully done all of the levels. They've done most of the items that are in there, so they've done really well, but it takes time to get there. So companies that invested in some of the best marketing platforms really early on and are in their 3rd or 4th year, those typically are the ones which have had the right guidance and support, and they've got enough resource, and they're able to move quite a long way. But most people haven't been able to really get that far quite so soon, and so there's a lot of customers that are still looking for our support, and either early on, as we saw, with a third of the audience, at the beginning, a third in the middle, and a third starting to get into the higher levels.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. Maybe someone is willing to throw in one last one. I've got one extra question. Is it not a continuous loop in which you are in as a company, revisiting the different levels over and over again?
So I think there is a continuous process of refinement, and we're going to talk about personas in a lot of depth next week. Some people quite often ask, well, okay, if we're going to invest and we're going to create a persona and map out a buying journey, then once we've done that, is that it? Is it done, or do you have to come back? And the reality is that our buying behavior is changing quite rapidly all the time. We don't have to look very far to see that. So when we look at how people approach a buying process and how the decision making is done, once you've created the persona, it's really important to go back and review the insights that you collected at least every 2 to 3 years. And by doing that, it also means you need to go back and you need to review the way that you're approaching your campaigns with that particular persona. And it might be that you need to start to use different tactics as your buyer starts to use different tools and to start to research and to approach their buying process in a different way. So that's one of the other reasons why it's really difficult to get to level 10, because typically as you go and you build your maturity over time, it's a little bit of a moving target because your buyers are changing literally every day. They're changing the way that they engage with media and the way that they approach their buying decisions. So it is a bit cyclical, and absolutely you do need to keep reviewing and refining what you're doing.
Okay, thanks. So with that, I think we are about to finish up this very first webinar. Thank you all for listening, for participating in the polls, and for asking some interesting questions. So you will receive the link to the recording, and if you haven't downloaded the presentation yet, you could also do that via the email you will be receiving. And if you have any further feedback, don't hesitate to share with us or reach out to us directly to Mark or myself or via the website. And we'd love to see you back in next week for the next session. Thanks for now. Have a great day.